So hello everyone and good morning. Welcome back to 33 Founders. We're excited to be here today with Mike Salguero, co-founder of CustomMade. So thanks for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So can you custom tailor a description of what you do for us, please?
Sure. So we connect makers from all across the United States and Canada with buyers of their custom goods. So we mostly work with jewelers and furniture makers, but we also work with ceramicists, leather workers, knife makers, wood artists, glass, pretty much anything that you can get custom. We started in 2009, and we had this dream of helping customers to go directly to the source, go directly to the people who are creating their items, and to have a relationship with those people as the piece is coming to life.
Great. So essentially, Mike, your goal is to have a big paradigm shift from going to IKEA or going to Restoration Hardware and bringing back custom furniture, going directly, like you said, to the designer to get a piece made. What needs to happen for that paradigm shift to occur?
Yeah, so first of all, we're not just focused on furniture, we're focused on all things custom. So, just like you could, instead of going to Restoration Hardware, go to CustomMade. Instead of going to Tiffany's, you should go to CustomMade as well. We believe what needs to happen is, one, consumers need to get a better understanding that they can actually choose custom, because most don't know it exists. And two, we need to make it super, super easy so that it's as easy as walking into a store, talking to a salesperson about your needs, and seeing a dining room table or a silver necklace that you like. By bringing the marketplace online, what we've done is we've completely disrupted pricing, your ability to source the item that you want, your ability to read reviews and trust the person you're working with. All of that stuff has been disrupted by our marketplace. So quite literally today, you could walk into Restoration Hardware, take a photo of something that you love, and we have a local maker who is within 10 to call it 25 miles away from you, who could make you that item for the same price, faster, and with much better materials. So our question is, why isn't everyone doing that? And that is what we intend to bring to the masses.
So when you put it that way, Mike, I know one of the things you guys are focused on is getting repeat customers. So once I get one product from CustomMade, I want to go back for that same experience. What strategies have you found work to generate repeat customers?
Yeah, it's a good question. One of the things that we have seen and we continue to try to work into our model is repeat purchasing across category. So if you purchase a dining room table, how do we convince you not only to buy the chairs through the site, which is actually harder because you already have a relationship with a maker, but convince you to buy a necklace that you're going to purchase for Christmas. That has been the strategy we've used, is to expose people who are interested in one thing to something completely different that they might not have known that they could get custom. We find a lot of our customers come through, because we have the domain name CustomMade.com, a lot of them come through organic search. And because of that, they might be searching for, call it, custom-made engagement ring. They land on our site. They might not even know that our site has coffee tables or glass-blown chandeliers, because they only went through one specific funnel. So a lot of what we do, and if you look at our site, we continue to try to reinforce the message that there's lots of different stuff you can get custom, and it's not just the item that you're looking for.
So how are you guys preventing disintermediation?
Yeah, so disintermediation is an interesting one. The best advice I ever got on disintermediation is that you're going to see it happen, but that if you focus on those leaks in the bucket, you'll never actually be able to fill the bucket. Meaning, basically, lots of companies will chase disintermediation and not really focus on the big picture, which is driving enough value in your platform that people never want to leave. We do have flags in our system, so certain messages that go through that contain like, hey, why don't we do this offline, or hey, PayPal me here. We get flagged and we can talk to the makers about that. We typically find that it's the maker, and it's usually a maker who doesn't quite yet understand our platform and understand that the expectation is that they stay on our platform. We also guarantee the products that the customer purchases. So for most customers, that's a really good carrot for them to
Absolutely.
want to remain on our platform. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that one of the largest challenges is, let's say you get a bed made on CustomMade, which we have lots of beds being purchased every year. How does CustomMade stay relevant if you then want to buy the table, the bedside table? That's an area where we have not yet figured out the best way to get the customer to come back and to work with us again, rather than going directly to somebody who they were introduced to through our site. But unlike other two-sided marketplaces, like a TaskRabbit or a Dog Vacay, ours are really larger purchases and they're more one-off, so they're not like repeat. I'm going to bring my dog to the same person every day. So our unit economics work really well on the first transaction, which is really important for us as we scale and brand ourselves.
Great. So as you talk about scaling, of course, one part of that is getting funding, and you guys approached over 100 investors and eventually had to pivot your platform. Mm-hmm. Working with Google Ventures, among others, what's one thing that founders should not do when they're raising capital?
Never give up hope. That's what I would say. So we actually we went on 150 meetings to raise $400,000 our first round. And we did it in 3 months. And we did it at the end of 2008 when the world was the economic world was collapsing.
Good timing.
And I remember a very specific moment where we sat down with one of our mentors and we're like, there's no one else. We can't talk to anyone else. And he's like, there's always someone else. Put your shoes back on, get back out there. There's always someone else. And I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who come in and they're very discouraged about the fact that they went out and they met 10 people and all 10 told them, I'm not going to invest in your dream. If you're not used to having the door slammed in your face and you're not used to having somebody say no to you over and over and over, being an entrepreneur is probably not the right path for you. I mean, this is a game of you being so confident in your idea and your ability to execute on your idea that nobody is going to stop you and nobody is going to tell you that this isn't the right idea. That being said, on the pivot, you also have to be flexible enough to realize that your first idea might not be the right idea, and that you really need to listen to the market, both the investment market, but also other customers and your constituencies, and figure out a model that works for everybody.
Yeah, so you guys moved from a subscription model then to a commission-based model. What advice can you give other entrepreneurs who are also pivoting?
Be confident. So once you have the facts, you're never going to be 100% confident that the decision you're going to make is going to be the right one. If you have 70% confidence, you're lucky. So once you have made the decision, there's really no turning back. For us, when we pivoted, we had 3,500 makers on our platform. I think we had about 25 people who left because of our switch. But we contacted each of them individually. We let them know the reasons why we were making the switch, and we took it very seriously that we were making this switch, and that the deal had changed a little bit for those makers. And ultimately, we earned a lot of their trust and respect because we were open with them, and we never backed down. Like, even if they had these 5 complaints about our change, we were unwilling to back down from what we knew was the right move.
Great.
Now, working with Google Ventures, I know that you're very familiar with these 5-day design sprints.
Yep.
So can you walk or sprint our audience through this process and how this experience enables results?
Sure. Yeah, the design sprint is amazing. It's one of the numerous benefits of working with Google Ventures. Google Ventures is an incredible VC if you're able to actually get money from them. So the design sprint goes something like this. Usually we go out to San Francisco to do a design sprint. So we'll bring out some designers, maybe a couple product people, maybe an engineer, although that's only happened once. The first day, so what you want to do is you want to band what your problem is to something very, very small. So for example, we want to encourage customers to describe what they're looking for better. something like that. Open-ended, but also a pretty good question. The first day is ideation. So people come prepared with different websites that might ask, take a customer through a bunch of questions or quiz the customer on what they're looking for. And while you're looking at all those inputs and all those sites, you're writing down on sticky notes, how might we blank? So how might we, have a glossary that has really interesting terms on it, or how might we empower the customer to make these decisions? Lots and lots and lots and lots of stickies get created. You then put those all on a board, and the team votes on which ones they think are the most interesting. Sorry, first you categorize them, because what you find is that all of those ideas really fit into like 8 to 10 different buckets. So there's like empowerment, or there's marketing, or there's virality, whatever those are, like they fit into some pretty good buckets. Then you vote on them, and what you find is that there's a lot of heat around certain ideas. Then you take those ideas and you basically create like, okay, here are the goals. Here are the goals for whatever we're going to build. They need to satisfy these big ideas. That usually takes about a day and a half. Then you go into quick sketching, and you do the same thing. So you try to sketch one individual piece of the design process. So like, here's what the glossary would look like. And then same thing, you post all those up, and people vote on those or individual pieces of those that are interesting to them. And then you basically take all of that stuff and you combine it into one, and then you try to come up with one user story that walks the user through the entire experience. And then you do wireframes on that, and then you actually create that in some sort of clickable, high fidelity wireframe. And then you go and user test that. So you go out and you try to see what users think about that. And then you pivot from there. I've actually seen it done in 3 days pretty successfully. Wow. I've also tried to help other organizations do it in 2 days, which has not been as successful. But it's a fantastic way to step away from the business and to really ideate on something much bigger. It's been really useful for us because we're, as you said, we're trying to disrupt the way people shop. And this is a brand new way of doing things, and figuring out the right mix of how to do that, and how to do that in a way that's really easy is challenging.
Mike, I know we want to end on culture because that's something that the CustomMade team is doing exceptionally well. And Chase shared a pretty interesting fact with me, so I'm going to let him take this part away.
Oh, about the tattoo?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
So you love CustomMade so much that you got a tattoo of your own logo.
I did.
What are some of the ways what are some other ways actually that founders can get employees, and especially these lower level employees, to believe in the company cause?
Yeah, I think so. For us, I would say that we have a fairly easy time, just because we're a very mission-based company, and we have a very well-defined mission of wanting to help makers make a living and wanting to help customers buy meaningful stuff through our platform. Some of the things that have worked well for us on culture is I had always heard from entrepreneurs that you need to write down your culture. And that never really made sense to me. I never understood how you can write down a culture, which is a living and breathing thing. And what worked for me after many mistakes and numerous hires where people didn't fit into the culture, what we did is we basically looked at the people in our company that we thought were the most successful, best culture fits, like people you really wanted to hang out with, but were also incredibly good at their job and just moving the company forward at breakneck speeds. And we essentially did the exact same thing as a Google Sprint. We wrote on stickies all the traits of those people. So, super smart, data oriented, passionate, tons of drive, whatever those were. And then we basically bucketed those into the areas that had the most heat around them. And then we came up with our list of what are the most important traits for people to have. And we now screen every candidate on those. So any person that joins CustomMade will be screened by somebody within this organization on cultural traits, which range from stuff like customer obsession to humility. So it's kind of fun to try to figure out, like, okay, how do you test for humility? Like, how do you, in a 30-minute interview, get a good sense of whether somebody's humble?
How do you?
I think the humility one is all about the saying I or we. So if you talk about your past conquests as I did this and I did that, and I was able to grow the company by X%. I was able to do this rather than we. That's a really good sign. There's lots of other small things like do they say hi to people as they walk by them, even though they don't know them, or do they just kind of keep quiet, keep their heads down, and go into the interview room? Those are, a few. I don't want to give away all our secrets, but those are.
Yeah, it's my understanding your employees also still own a majority of the company. So what's the rationale behind that?
I'm not sure where you got that.
Oh boy.
That is no longer true, that the employees own a majority of the company, but every employee here does own a piece of the company. And the rationale behind that is, when you think about the amount of time that you spend at a company, especially a startup, and the amount of brain power that goes into it, and the amount of stress that you bring home with you, it's really an all-encompassing thing. We literally spend more time with you than your significant others, your family, and we take that really seriously. The fact that you choose this as your place to call your home and your business, it's really important to us that you feel ownership in the project that you're working on. So that's really, really important to me as a CEO, to make sure that every single person here is an owner in the company and understands how what they are doing impacts the company. That being said, I also, one note for entrepreneurs out there, one lesson that I've learned is I think when you start a company, you have this dream that everyone who you start the company with is going to be with you at the finish line. And that's actually it just doesn't happen. I mean, you get into the business and you realize that, the people that you were in the trenches with really early on, they move on. And it can be for a variety of reasons. Either they're no longer a fit in the company, or they find another great job, or they start their own company. And you have to be okay with that. And as a CEO, you have to, one, realize that they're not leaving you. It's not a breakup. And two, what I focus on is, with the realization that people are going to leave the company, I focus on making sure that every single person who leaves, I want them to, years later, look at their experience at CustomMade, whether it was for 3 months or 3 years or 30 years, and I want them to say, wow, that was a career-defining move of mine. Like, that was the moment that I went from one path to a much higher growth trajectory. And that's what we strive for here. So we spend a lot of time trying to figure out, how can we make this the most meaningful step you've ever taken in your career? Because you're spending so much time here, and because you're sacrificing a lot to be here, that's what we owe you as a company.
Mike, you've really touched on that culture, and I know both Chase and I were discussing prior to our interview that we can really see that come alive in everything that you guys do at CustomMade. So can we close with you telling us how our users can get in touch with CustomMade and start making that shift to custom products?
Sure, yeah. So you can go to CustomMade.com, and you can use our site in two ways. One, you can describe what you want, any crazy idea that you have, and we'll have our network of about 15,000 makers. They'll receive the details of your job, and the ones that are qualified to do it will reach out to you and talk about your project. You can also browse through our almost 200,000 individual projects that have happened with our makers, and you can basically talk about how you want to customize those projects with the maker. So yeah, and if anyone has questions or wants to reach out to me directly, they can go to Twitter. I'm at Mike Salguero.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, Mike.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.